Trigger warning. This episode may contain content that could be distressing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to New Earth Studios. Love Now by Alex Roseman. We are here in the heart of the wilderness of Dubai. From our beautiful New Earth Cafe, the Conscious Eatery, where we'll be bringing you conscious conversations with our very next guest. Please do your best to click the subscription button so you can see us evolve and grow and ultimately show up in a community near you. Thank you. I hope you got your lines ready.
I'm ready, I think.
What is going on now?
Oh my God.
Here you go, dude. Can we get a match over? What would you like to drink?
Just some water would be great.
Just some water, not our special matches?
You know, I don't actually drink much. Remember we talked about this. I don't drink caffeine.
Well,
What's matcha? Is it caffeine?
Yes, but it's an antioxidant. So it kind of balances things out, and it's, I mean, you know.
Am I going to drink it and be like, whoosh?
If you are, then it'd be amazing, no? Wouldn't that be a great energy to put through the podcast?
That's
you can
true,
give it a go.
True. Okay. This will be my first matcha.
Yeah, well,
ever.
you're in the right place.
Am I going to sleep tonight? No, now I'm just
you
getting
really
paranoid.
will, yeah.
Okay,
If you're
cool.
that sensitive, then brilliant.
Yeah, okay.
2 matches and some water for us, please.
Yeah. Is that what it normally?
just
However
the
it
usual.
normally, yeah. All right,
Okay.
cool.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
It's lovely to have you on here.
Thanks for having me.
So we
Really
first
appreciate it.
met jumping into a freezing ass bath just around the corner.
Yeah.
So this is what you do. For anybody who's watching, you're in this space, not just as somebody who holds this space ultimately for people to jump into an ice bath, but you do many other things that have led you up to that point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And all of these things I would say I implemented in my own life
Yeah.
for a while and saw the transformation, saw the growth, and that kind of led me to be like, okay, I want to facilitate this. I want to lead people through that somewhat of a similar growth.
Okay.
So, yeah.
A similar growth.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, you can't pinpoint what someone's growth is going to look like, but I was hungry for growth in a way I didn't even know. And that's what I find. That's the main thing, actually, I find, that people are hungry for a change or growth or something they don't even know. And then it's up to them where they go with it. But I got to a point where I wanted to facilitate where they go with it.
Okay.
Where they lead themselves is up to them, but I just wanted to be along for kind of like the ride.
Okay, along with the ride. So what was it that initiated that growth for you?
For me, I went through some major changes, I would say, in my life. You know, I kind of was living, I won't say in the way everybody does, but in the way that we're kind of told, you know, in that, you know, live your life, go to school, get the education, you know, have the marriage, have the kids, kind of go along that path. And there was always something that I was like, something is not clicking for me. And, you know, eventually I reached the point where I went through some changes in my life, made some hard decisions, kind of just got to the point where I was like, something's got to give.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what had to give. Like, I didn't even know which way I was going to go. So this is where I started to implement certain tools, whether it was cold exposure ice baths, whether it was, you know, theta healing, digging into my brain. I started implementing certain things because I just knew there was another path I was meant to kind of go along. And that just kept bringing me to the next step, even until now. You know, I keep getting to that next step, and eventually I was just like, okay, this is what it's going to be for me, you know?
Okay. So what was it that stirred you on to go into that step? Because usually when we go into a moment of growth, for me personally, I was going through transitional pain.
Yeah.
And I was understanding, like, why am I going through this? How do I stop myself going through something like this? What am I needing to learn from this? What was yours?
I would agree with you. I do think pain is a huge transformational, like, kick in the ass. And for me, it was a deep-seated pain. I felt afterwards, when I was able to reflect a little bit more on it, it was like a deep-seated pain that existed even as a child. But as I got older, it was certain decisions that I was making, lifestyle choices that I was thinking that I wanted to make, kept leading me to this wall of pain. I kept literally jamming into this wall of just pain. And it would come across as almost as though I was beating myself up. Why are you even feeling this pain? It was just this whole circle of pain. Every decision I was making felt like it was cloaked with this pain. And I think I reached a point where I was like, I can't live like this anymore. Like, enough. I need to either understand this or it just needs to be over. And I was taking it to the point where I was like, this needs to be over. Like, I can't even exist in this if it's going to be this way.
How did that pain manifest itself?
You know, I would say it was like a deep-seated separation. I constantly felt like I was separate. I was separate from people. I was separate from the world. I was separate from what was going on. And it just dug at me. It literally ate away at me in a way that I didn't even know. Like, I didn't even understand it when it was really happening before, but it was chipping away at me. So although I was functioning in society, it was like a deep loneliness, a deep separation, a deep depression. And eventually I was like a robot. I was just functioning, doing what I needed to do at quite a high capacity, which is actually a little bit terrifying if you think about it, that you can be operating here and meanwhile be over here in this pit, it feels like, of hell.
It's like you're under an influence while driving heavy machinery.
Literally,
Yeah.
And you're just doing these movements, and you don't even realize you're doing them until you're able to step back and say, okay, no more. This isn't how I want to live anymore. So, yeah. It just felt like it was always there. It was all I knew, pain. And then eventually it was just like, I can't live like this. I don't want to live like this. And even when I made that proclamation, I didn't know how I would get out the other side, but I just knew I wanted to.
I know, I always love starting a podcast on pain. You know, we can only go up from here, can't it, really? Well, you know what? Let's start up with a matcha. Thank you so much.
My first matcha.
Cheers. This is your first time here to the cafe?
No, I've been here a couple times, but I do love this place.
Okay, lovely.
Wow. That is
an
I've
interesting
never
one.
tried anything like this before. Did I even drink it, or did I drink the foam? That's so interesting.
It is interesting. It's a bit stronger than usual.
I mean, I wouldn't know
I know.
either way, yeah.
But it's quite strong today.
Yeah.
But there you go. There's your first
Yeah,
matcha.
thank you. Oh, interesting.
And a beautifully flowery cup as
Yeah,
well
I like all
to help
this
the medicine go down. Well, let's see if you start flying off the walls, shall we? Why are you so hesitant on, say, caffeine? It seems like maybe there was a past to do with not caffeine, but maybe some harder stuff that you went, I'm just going to go completely teetotal. It's just an observation.
I mean, I definitely had my heyday. You know, I definitely had my time where there was much, much harder than caffeine or anything else, for sure. And
Harder than matcha? That's crazy
Can you
talk.
believe it? But the thing is, you know, it's I don't regret it by any means. I don't look back and think anything of it. But when I do look back, like every time I was reaching for some sort of substance, I was trying to numb something. I was trying to quiet something. So even though in the beginning it may have started out as just, you know, fun, I realized I was always trying to quiet something. So when it comes to, you know, and it may sound crazy, but when it comes to stuff like caffeine, and I don't see the point. Like, for me, I'm not getting anything from it. And if I'm not getting something from something, then I'm like, why am I doing it? What's the point?
So things with purpose. I absolutely relate with you. Look, I'm not a coffee drinker. I used to make my own bulletproof vegan coffees, which was mixing coconut oil, cacao butter, and all these sort of things. And that was my morning. Like, I'd look forward to it in the
You
morning.
had a whole magical potion going.
Yeah, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to there's coffee, but how do I slow down the release of the caffeine in a way that's healthy for the body? So I did all these kind of things to, you know, counterbalance, because there's always going to be a negative, but then there's a positive. So in all aspects of things, but what works for one person may not work with somebody else. And the reason I love matcha, one, it's delicious if it's not too bitter. And secondly, it's full of antioxidants.
Yeah.
So it really pumps the body, like, you know, blueberries and all that sort of stuff that we eat. But this is pure form of it, and it goes straight in. And it feels great. And there's no high and there's no low.
Yeah.
But
that's a good thing, because there was a small period of time where I was drinking coffee and I did feel you were here and then you were here, and then I was like, what's the point? So if this doesn't do that for you, then maybe I'm going to become an avid matcha drinker.
I think maybe this is the start,
Yeah.
start of a beautiful relationship with you and matcha.
Yeah.
I've got a podcast on matcha, so if you want to see me and this other chap talking about matcha, an hour and a half, it's quite something.
Oh my God.
You have to be quite a fan to
Yeah.
watch that one. But look, where are you now getting your ultimately dopamine hits? Like, you're not getting it through these chemicals. But like anything, once we give up one habit, we replace it with something else. What have you replaced it with now? And I'm going to go leaning towards the ice baths here, because that's quite a dopamine hit when you jump into that.
100%.
100%.
I just did one like 40 minutes ago, and even I was like, whoa, yeah. 100%.
So you replaced it, a coffee with a jump in the ice bath for 8-10 minutes. It's quite an extreme. Mm-hmm. So what led you to ice baths?
I mean, with ice baths, it was one of the things. So I was on I've got to end this pain, and I've got to try different things. So it wasn't like I was sitting there Googling things to do to, get rid of pain or to have a dopamine hit, but whatever was coming into my existence, my vibration, it's kind of, I was just going with it. And I just had a curiosity with ice baths. It was simply curiosity. And it just so happened, when you meet someone through someone because you're doing something else, and it just feels like the universe is aligning everything. And I just ended up meeting someone who facilitated ice baths.
Okay.
One thing led to another, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go. And I hadn't even done a lot of research on them. I just kind of had seen it online. And this was even before. I mean, nowadays I feel like you see it all the time, but this was before you didn't see it as often. And so I didn't know much about it, but I was just so open to anything that came into my existence, to trying it, to just being like, okay, this has got to be better than what I'm feeling, that I said, let's give it a go. And from the first time I did it, like no word of a lie, the first time I did it, I was turned upside down. I went through a journey. I went through, it was like a 3-hour movie. You're sitting there, I just went through this insanity. The craziest discomfort and panic to the most elated, just on top of the world, to confused, and then I just knew. And this is why I tell people, your body will lead you, and it will tell you if you want to do it again. I just knew, no matter what, I need to do this again. And I just started doing it once a week from then.
It's interesting. I mean, you found ice baths when you're looking to, get away from pain. You decided to literally, if I just move this forward a little bit, jump into pain with an ice bath. And it's quite an extreme, because I had an ex-girlfriend in my 20s, how this comes into mind, who was a self-harmer. And she used to get a release from self-harming, dopamine hit, of us, why we're doing it through pain.
Right.
There's that pain and pleasure. You can't separate the both of them. You have to have, if you want pleasure, you're going to attract the pain, and vice versa. So by putting the pain on, you also attract the pleasure. In a weird way, you can see an ice bath as a sort of form of self-harm.
For sure.
Because when I get in that thing, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing in this bloody bath? Why have I done this to myself? But then it overcomes, and the pleasure from it, kicks in. So I understand 100%, but it is a sort of form of that, because you're having to go through the pain. But there are health benefits, of course, and say those who are self-harming.
Yeah.
So, you know what, for anybody who's listening who's not done an ice bath and they think, no way, what can you say that would entice them enough to go, oh, okay, yeah, sure, I'll give that a go?
I mean, part of it is, okay, what do you have to lose? The thing is,
Fingers, toes?
Well, here's hoping no. But the thing is, although you're facing pain, so similar to self-harming, and I agree with you that there is this pain that you experience, and then there's this relief of the pain is gone. But I find with ice baths, for me, what they did, and for what I see with a lot of people, is they teach you how to navigate through the pain. So you're not looking for that hit of pain to release the pain sort of deal. They teach you how, okay, I'm dealing with some pain right now, and now I'm going to navigate through the pain. And this is something that for someone who's never done it before and might be like, okay, well, why would I try? Are you going to accomplish something like that in your first ice bath? Maybe not. But for me, and what I see in a lot of people, what you will see, you'll get a glimmer of that. Look at what I just went through, and look at what I came out. Look at how I came out the other side of that. That's the biggest thing, that whether someone's like, I want physical, whether I want mental, that's the biggest thing, where it's like, look at where you started, maybe with no knowledge at all, or just, why am I doing this? And look at where you went, and look at where you ended. That's that little journey. That's why I would say...
It's a little heartbeat.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is, isn't it? Most people, like you, found yourself frozen, ultimately.
Literally.
In a time where your trauma, your pain that was encapsulated within you, couldn't find its way to the surface. And I want to expand on that a little bit, because I've been reading this book called No Bad Parts, which I think you might find quite fascinating. And I like to experiment on myself and the people around me regards to these kind of things, and sometimes with dire consequences. So I'll share in a bit. So you're confronting this moment, like most people, they feel stuck, like hit a plateau, and they think, I don't know how to get beyond this pain that actually has control over me now. Like, who's in the driver's seat here? And there's a moment that you suddenly see this ice bath, a modality. It's a modality, right? Something that you can face, and there's a start and there's an end. Because I've done other modalities, and one of my sort of first ones, UPW, is walking over hot coals, right? You kind of go, you're shouting out, cool moss, hypnotizing yourself to walk over blimmin' hot coals, you know? So there is something to be said about when you feel stuck, you're in a plateau, the pain's taken over. So you go, you know what? I'm going to meet that pain, and I'm going to overcome that pain by controlling the circumstances myself. Like, I'm going to move myself into the situation like an ice bath, because I don't want that pain to be controlling me.
Yeah,
so I'm going to bring it. It's like off the boats when they have the plank, walk the plank.
Yeah.
I'm going for it, whatever's going to happen, like a death of something.
Yeah.
Because there's a story you're telling yourself that you won't be able to do something,
Yeah.
Like a heartbeat in your life. And then when you take that step and you do jump in that ice bath, when your mind's chatting around, no, and it's all your fears and everything else, and you do it anyway, it gives you a sense of freedom from the aspect of yourself that has been controlling our
that
lives.
Part of you that has been trying to run from the pain, because no one is trying to run. Essentially, we're not trying to run towards pain. Even, adrenaline junkies, and I don't know, whoever else, like, it's different, so we're always trying to run away. I want the pain to stop. When is it going to stop? What do I need to do to get it to stop? Where do I need to go? And so this is one of the modalities that I feel like you're not running from the pain. You're like, okay, it hasn't been working anymore to run from the pain, or it's overwhelming to think of, what do I need to do to run from it?
Yeah.
Let me face it. Let me figure out how to navigate it. And then it takes even the power away of the pain, or how much power you can put on, why am I in this place? Why do I feel this way? What's going on? Like, it's overwhelming. And you just reach a point where you face it and you're like, okay, you're here.
Do you feel that the pain that you were looking to confront, have you confronted it through this? Or, I'm looking at this for the first time through a new lens here, is it a symbolism for the fact that you're freezing it every time you jump in an ice bath, and it feels like you're confronting it, it's frozen, but it's still there, and then you're going back into it to meet it every time?
I think it can be a bit of both, because it depends on how much you're ready and willing to release. So it can be some pain that you navigate through and you feel like you've come out the other side. And, some of the revelations that can come to you, the emotions, the feelings that you can have through the whole experience, it's phenomenal. What can happen to you, and you can feel like you've literally navigated a whole block of pain. But if you're not ready to bring certain things to the surface, your body, like, our bodies are so intelligent. Our nervous systems are so intelligent. They're there for a reason, especially when you learn how to regulate them in a healthy way. So they're not going to give you too much. Your soul, your inner guidance, it's not going to throw too much at you. So
there's
collapse.
only so much truth we can handle in one moment.
Exactly. So that can mean that you visit some of the pain and then you come back for, another trip.
So that's how you see it. This ice bath is ultimately truth coming up from the pain deep within
100%.
that shows itself in that glimpse moment, as long as you can hold on.
100%.
And then you step out and, it's a modality for sure. And it depends if you're willing to park your car there and stay there, or you want to go for the many different modalities that are out there. And I'm a guy I'm like a journalist. I don't know what I call myself. Somebody who's, seeking, looking around, trying all these different modalities, because I see that, it's like we're picking a lock within ourselves, and it would be great if there was just that one modality, that one thing. But that's an illusion, right?
Yeah.
Because we are far more complex than that, and yet probably so simple at the same time. But when we go through these different modalities, we see an aspect of ourselves we haven't seen before. And, one modality can keep showing a different aspect of ourselves every time we do it. Mm-hmm. Where you are now, regards to confronting that pain, do you feel you'll get there with the ice baths alone?
Personally, for me, I'm similar to you in the sense that I like to try many things. I like to guinea pig myself. I like to see what can work, what can't work, or let me rephrase that. Not what can work and what can't work, but what resonates with me. Because not everything is going to resonate with you. And I say that about ice baths and breath work and everything. You have to find the tool, the modality that resonates with you. There isn't a one, modality fixes all, or there isn't a, well, why don't you like ice baths? You haven't tried. No. It's going to resonate. It's going to draw you to it. You're going to do it. Personally, for me, ice baths have been transformational. But I've also delved into other things that I can say. Breath work for me has also been transformational. Theta healing for me has a whole other way for me to dig into my brain, has been something that has shifted me in so many ways. I'm a firm believer that you need to strengthen your own, inner guidance. Read your books, listen to your podcasts, do what you need to do. But ultimately, it has to come back to you. So for me, I would say ice baths have been transformational, but, because I've tried other things too, I feel like the what I have going, kind of, like the whole little package, it does me good.
Well, it's cool because, somebody's got to hold the space for it, for other people to try out their modality.
Yeah, of course,
and,
yeah.
And this is something that you're holding the space for here in Alberari for anybody watching. Of course, they can check it out. It's beautiful to do it here as well.
Yeah.
Are you still doing it outside?
Yeah, we're still doing it
out
outside.
to the end gym area?
Yep.
It's a really cool place to do it because it's nice and warm. That's what you need afterwards.
Yeah. And it's nice because you can walk around on the grass after. And here in Dubai, there isn't too many places that have this type of nature, so it is quite nice. You can ground yourself a bit.
Yeah, which is beautiful. I've been getting up in the mornings, even when I was in Cyprus during the winter, and I just been jumping straight in the pool, which is kind of feels like a nice bath because it is something. The first time I jumped in, it was cold enough for my body to feel that feeling of the ice. Mm-hmm. When you first jump in, that my body in a couple of minutes' time went hot.
Yeah.
I was like, there's that kick in. It was that cold for me. Mm-hmm. And it's like a routine. I jump in the pool every morning and then go through the sauna afterwards, which is lovely, But I'm also listening to my educational stuff whilst I'm also swimming. I'm like stacking. How many things can I get in one moment, So I'm squeezing in like everything because it seems like the older we get, the more valuable our time is, And it's like I don't want to waste a second of it. So everything needs to have a purpose. Hey, even my conversations need to have a purpose. If I speak to anybody, it's now a podcast, I mean, that's it. It's like, you want to have a chat? Let's go to the cafe. Because I feel like time is limited and why not put it out there? Plus it ties it in with the cafe and, everything else. So it makes it interesting because who knows what might come out of this that's, informative or educational for people. What are, I just want to kind of get this bit done, the idea of the ice bath. What are the health benefits for those who want to, again, maybe on the fence?
So from the physical perspective, so you see cold plunges, ice baths online, left, right, and center these days. And typically you'll see, muscle recovery, gym session, jump in to an ice bath afterwards, to recover. So from a physical perspective, it's very good for muscle recovery. It's very good for inflammation. So much so that if you are weight training and your objective is to build muscle, then you want to wait 6 to 8 hours before doing an ice bath because you need the inflammations for your muscles to grow.
Yeah.
So it will target inflammation pretty much immediately. The main thing, there's honestly so many even physical benefits, but the main thing that in my opinion, is you're building your metabolic rate. You're teaching your body, you're training your body, you're training your metabolic rate to start pumping in general. So when it comes to the ice, you're teaching it to pump to keep you warm inside and outside of the ice. This is how you're able to get in and not immediately, start shivering all over the place for so long. This is how you get that heat kick that you're talking about that you get. This is how you're able to get out and then walk around and not be immediately shivering. But then the metabolic training translates to when you're outside of the ice, when you're sick, when you're stressed, how you sleep, how you digest your food, every single little thing, how you process everything. And you're training that bit of your system to come into play when you need it. You're training your body to give you what it needs when you need it. So you're not reaching for external things as much. From the mental perspective, and this was the thing that knocked me off my socks when I did it, like every program you have under the sun is going to come out when you put yourself in that situation. Fear, panic.
The tyrant within will start shouting, especially when you put those hands in.
Yeah, oh my God.
My God, the hands.
Yeah. The hands
More
on
than
their
the
own
body.
are... And it's funny because even I'll be like, all right, you got this. And meanwhile, just earlier, I was moving the ice around, and in my head, I was screaming like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, you will find yourself go through, like I said, that journey. And you will find all your programs come to the surface. So
cartwheels inside your
everything.
head. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who you are, it's fear. What's coming to the surface is always fear. It's some way, shape, or form fear. And so from the mental perspective, you have that moment, that influx, that crazy noise, and then you bring yourself down. And so you start regulating your nervous system. You start regulating that fight or flight mode. You start teaching self-soothing, nurturing your own body, your own being, to be like, I can get through, fill in the blank. You know what I mean? And you just start up-leveling in general, how you react to things, how you react to people, how you react to your own life, your own being, your own shadow, like literally everything. The mental benefits for me was what had me knowing, I don't care how much discomfort this is, something is shifting inside of me and I need to do this. But I would say if you're open to whatever level of transformation you're going to have, you will ride that wave. And if you're open to having it, you will see yourself change. You will see bits of you just start leveling up. It's amazing.
Yeah, I noticed that when, especially the hands, the first time, and the talk that, you start to realize what's living inside your head, because that comes up as like, hey, it will say anything it possibly can.
Yeah.
It will shout, it will try to convince you, it will do anything it can, hustle you out of your hands being in that ice bath, right? And you start to learn a bit more about yourself. And there's absolutely, what you're saying about the self-talk. It's, understanding how can I then, motivate myself, inspire myself to self-talk and self-regulate this voice that's telling me to get out, that I can keep myself in, though everything is saying, get out. And when you can overcome that, then you sort of overcome that fight or flight response, the amygdala, that will do anything. Because then your executive function takes over, and you're saying, no, it's okay, we'll be fine. Yeah. Even though it feels like the absolute opposite. And when you finally overcome that, and then you realize that, like when you surrender to it and it doesn't hurt anymore, there is that moment of empowerment where you feel like, wow, I just overcome that. And then you jump in your whole body, and then you realize that's just happened. It's, absolutely, you've overcome that moment where you feel like you couldn't do it. And that builds willpower, builds resilience. It's like that soul part of yourself just shows up, and you're not then victim to your own villain that lives inside you.
It's like you start to have your own back in a way that maybe you didn't even know how to do before. You start to support yourself so that when that villain wants to come, the ego, the what shadow, whatever you want to call it, it's not, you're able to face it in a different way. You're able to integrate it into who you are, because hands, full body, you're never running from the pain. You're never running from the noise. You know, ice baths for me are extremely therapeutic. You know, for some people, I find it is much more just about jumping in, getting the physical recovery, moving along, and that's fine, to each their own. For me, they're very much about having that mind journey. And so, you know, I always tell people, face what's coming up. Teach your body that I can face whatever is coming up in my life. Like literally, I can go through it. I can feel it. Every single uncomfortable emotion, every single joyous emotion, I can feel it. And so you soothe yourself, and you literally have your back in a way where by the time you come out, there's no villain, there's no, you know, there's nothing. You're just...
You've neutralized.
Yeah.
You've neutralized the victim and villain, because you've overcome it. There's nothing to shout at you about anything, because you're out of it. Yeah. So you've overcome it. And then who is the victim? Who is the villain? Yeah. What does that mean? You know, it's when like you come out of it. You start to realize
they both have a purpose. They both have a role, and it's up to you how loud you're going to allow one to be. You know, maybe today one's going to be a bit louder. Is it the biggest deal in the world? Like, you just start to integrate everything together, and you're like, okay, this is what it is. Yeah.
You mentioned it before, you know, obviously there's the pain and we're confronting it, and I think we're all on our journey to understand ourselves and, you know, where did this pain come from? And I'm reading a book at the moment called No Bad Parts by Robert Schultz, I think, PhD. And it's called the IFS, the Internal Family System. And the reason I'm sharing it is because, you know, it's a modality, right? Because when we go through these moments like the pain, what is the pain? You know, if we've got trauma and we're locked away somewhere, the no bad parts methodology is that we have an exiled part of ourselves, right? Something that we've exiled. Maybe we were 5 or 6 years old, something happened. And these exiled parts, when it happens, we hide within ourselves, and then a protector is formed to protect the inner child, let's say. And that protector takes on a persona that is... could be selfish, could be mean, could be angry, could be whatever it needs to be in order to protect the inner child. And then this persona is what we then become associated when we grow up. And we all have our own sort of way of managing this protector that we feel when we're stressed comes in. Some people, it's just there all the time. And I noticed going through some of the exercises and challenging the protector, and then asking the protector, because when you talk to the protector, it's like you're talking to a part of yourself. Mm-hmm. So I talk to that protector and I say, look, can you wait in the waiting room for a moment? And I'm going to speak to the inner child, you know, who's been exiled. So then it's about creating a relationship with the exiled part of yourself and bringing that exiled inner child, whenever that moment we're locked in time, to come in and be meted with love. Because the protector and the inner child thinks that we're still at that age, because we're frozen, you know, like symbolism for the ice bath. And I understand that when I'm myself showing up in a certain way that seems not like me, doesn't seem loving, it's the protector part of me showing up, because it feels like it needs to withdraw or be that way to protect the inner child. So having that relationship and communicating to the protector, you get to understand why it does what it does, because I'm sure any time you've been triggered or when you're in pain, you've beaten yourself up for acting out in a certain way, because it seemed counterintuitive to the result you want. So this protector is then misunderstood, and then we're beating on the protector who was just there doing its job, because we manifested it as children. So I was communicating, like, I go for an example, like yesterday I was communicating and talking to the protector. So I was like giving this a go and reading the book at the moment and understanding why it was there. And the more I understood the protector, the more I understood why it was doing what it was doing. And it just wanted to be heard, not shamed or judged, because our own inner talk going, why the hell would you do that? Once I had started to understand it, I had compassion, and I had real love and affinity for it, for doing its job for so many years. And as soon as I was saying to him, look, let's try a new form here, let's do something different here. The inner child doesn't need a protector anymore, because I'm a grown man, I'm not a child anymore. So, and you have to let them know like what's going on, kind of give them an update of your life, this is the situation. So it feels a little bit more confident and comfortable because it's a part that we haven't looked at. We haven't actually communicated with. We've drilled it a few times, and doing that and building that trust really shifted something. However, like feeling last night, because that was happening, and there was a moment, but just a life situation that it felt like I could have been under threat, an illusion of it, because suddenly I was vulnerable, because suddenly that protector's not there anymore. And I asked the protector, what new role would you like to have instead? If you're not protecting the inner child, you're not going to just disappear. So what would you like to do? How can you protect in a way that's aligned with all the other parts? It's all about love, and unity. So we had an agreement, let's say. You should have been there for the whole conversation, just me in the car. And so there I thinking we have an agreement. Then next morning, because of the situation that kind of happened, I was kind of vulnerable. It's like the protector came back with full force, because it was like, it's like freaking out. Like imagine you've been doing a job for like 40 years and then somebody comes along.
Like, I don't need you anymore.
Yeah, it's like, well, it's trying to figure itself out. And as much as you're having a conversation, suddenly, like my wife and I are having a conversation yesterday and she was challenging me about something, whatever it was. And usually my protector would come in at that moment and we could get into a bit of an argument because one protector is talking to another protector ultimately. But my protector wasn't there. So it was more the vulnerable bit like, well, this is quite alien, And I think the next day the protector was like, hey, what happened, Where were you? And I was like, we're doing a new approach here and we're not looking to fight. Look at the next day. It was all peace and love. So why, if it's all peace and love, I say, then why would the protector feel, in a way unsettled because of that? And I looked at it, what does that mean? Seeing it's happy, there's peace, there's calm, when it's used to drama. It's used to these things. So if it's not got that, it doesn't know where it is. So it's looking to create those situations to have drama, to feel normal, secure in its own way.
Familiar.
Because then it knows, like it's getting a sort of payoff from it, And it's interesting that this is going on because I feel like I'm resonating that these parts. And I was talking to someone yesterday and like, God, you're describing me. And it's like we all have these aspects of ourselves that just need, communication. They need like to be spoken to. Now, of course, when you're in an ice bath, it's very difficult in that moment because it's quite intense to have a conversation with yourself and you're, holding on. You know what I mean? It's like, how's that going to happen? Hey, are you okay in there? Inner child? So it's, so I get there's certain aspects and then I see this other modality. I'm thinking, okay, that is a tender approach because it's a very delicate situation. And, an ice bath may frighten that inner child, to a degree. But at the same time, there's health benefits and everything else. So you working in unison, being able to be in a position where that inner child is out, the protector is no longer needed in the way it is. And I'm just bringing it up because I could feel myself. It's like, it's like when somebody knows it's being seen. Yeah. And it's like last dash, like any movie, it's like the last, he wants his last hurrah, effort, like, and then before it, I don't want to say the word die because it's not about dying. It's, how can you want something to die that has been protecting you your whole life, even though it creates self-fulfilling prophecy of situations it needs to protect you from. So I'm just going through all this stuff right now, and it's just quite interesting because I like to experiment with different modalities, and sharing that. Does that resonate with you at all? Like a part within yourself that you feel a protector's needed to come in and protect that inner child?
Totally. And, even when it comes to ice baths, I'll just say this. Like, after you get through, let's call it the first 30 to 45 seconds of the protector going insane and you're not reacting, and so they're doubling their efforts. I myself have had moments where when I've reached that level of calm, I've literally had full-blown conversations with the inner child. I've literally soothed myself where, like, I have felt the relief and then the discomfort and then the unfamiliarity of, wait, but don't I need the protector? But wait a second, like I've literally gone through all of this. I mean, someone would just see me sitting there in the bucket and be like, oh, she's whatever. But there's all kinds of things that can happen to you when you reach that point of quiet. That's really what it is. You're in quiet. So whether it's ice baths as a modality, whether it's the many others as we know, I feel like when you reach that point where you've initiated quiet inside of you, that's when you have the opportunity to, yes, hear the noise from the protector, hear everything, but you also have the opportunity to say, okay, so rather than me immediately talking back, let me see what's up. Let me see what you want. What are you really trying to do? So on and so forth. So for me, 100%, till now, till this very minute, till tomorrow, like it's not something that I think ever goes away. I just think you learn how to deal with it differently. So now when I do have that protector coming in, trying to rustle about, we're human beings, we're not perfect. I have moments too where I'll react, but I'm able to step back faster and be like, what are you really trying to say? Do you just want to be seen right now? Are you lonely? Do you just want me to acknowledge that you're here? So thank you for trying to protect me, but we don't do things this way anymore. Like I literally have to talk to myself, and that's important.
Coaching like a toddler.
Yeah, and that is the self-soothing nurturing, because I can only speak for myself, but I know a lot of people have this too, where we're not self-soothing ourselves. It's attack. It's why are you like this? What's wrong with you? You should be doing this, and it's just this constant attack. So we're literally attacking our own protector.
It could be seen as, schizophrenic a little bit.
But
you know what?
I have had my moments where I'm like, what is happening?
No, 100%. And, when I was listening to it recently about schizophrenia, and what a schizophrenic is basically somebody who just takes zero responsibility for their life. And then I think, well, the protector has obviously come in to protect that inner child, and a schizophrenic has obviously had a serious situation where the protector is completely taken over, probably at a really young age, where the protector is a child, like a toddler. Mm-hmm. And if it's completely taken over and they're not able to soothe their toddler because they were not given the resources because it happened so young, there's no wonder that it takes over and they can't communicate. And a toddler, how much responsibility do they take? Yeah. So that schizophrenic person could be seen as completely taken over by their protector by taking zero responsibility for anything, and they become completely split. So it's like, for people like that, and I'm sure we're getting closer to understanding, what that is and how to reach people who are lost within themselves. There's methodologies that are certainly getting there.
I think shadow work and shadow integration is a huge thing, because it's like you need to accept that there's a part of you that wants to protect you, that wants to be your savior, that wants to come into play. Like that's what they think their goal is. And do we want to completely get rid of that? No. I want to have my protector, shadow, whatever you want to call it, but I just want it to be regulated. Just like you may have a fiery friend, that reacts in a certain way. Maybe you like some of their reactions. Do you want them to pop off and go mental? Probably not, but maybe you don't want them to just be bland and boring and staring at you. It's the same idea. Like, we want this. You just need to learn how to regulate it and integrate it and not run from it and be like, I need to change this, or why is this here? It's too, no.
I hear you, like, setting out rules. Yeah. Because if it doesn't know what the rules are, it's just going to be lawless. Mm-hmm. And I've been there, when you just have no rules at all for the protector, it will do whatever it, in fact, it's not even protecting anymore. It's just being something else, right? Yeah. You can't get rid of something. It just changes form, right? Because laws of conservation of energy, nothing can be created nor destroyed. So it does change form, and it is understanding how to have that protector align to how you live your life and how you would like somebody to be a protector. It's like writing a list. If I was to hire a bodyguard, what would it be like? What was my protector? And it is worth actually writing down the list of exactly the protector you'd want from your life. It's like a genie. Be careful what you wish for. Be absolutely specific, which I might do after this. Yeah. Just look at it, and go, well, if really be crystal clear here, because this is somebody who's going to live in your head. Yeah. So if you're not willing to put the time in to find out who that person is, let's say, and giving it clear instructions, then you don't really know who you're sharing space with. Yeah. And most people actually don't even know, one, themselves, and two, who they're sharing space with. Yeah. And they're these entities, let's call it, are, dictating their lives a lot of the time, and it's quite important to probably understand what it is and who that is.
Yeah, to at least have the awareness that these multiple parts of us exist. Because I was very much of the thinking that there's this part that's quote unquote perfect, and then there's all these parts of you that are completely messed up, and you need to figure them out and blah, blah, blah. It took me a long time through my own work to get to the point where it was like, all of this is me. There's no perfection. All of this is me. So even these parts that are turned around or whatever it is, or this protector, or this villain, or this part over here that wants to be quiet, no one's weak, no one's strong. It's just, how do you put it all together, and understand that this is you. There's the good, the bad, the this, the that, but we're human beings. That's a part of us.
I've noticed when you're saying this that, because I landed on something after listening to the Prophecy Experience in December, this program a mentor of mine does, and it's all about laws of universal duality, that you can't have one without the other. And it's absolutely true. And I've had guests come on here and who've been stuck in certain situations, and we can map out what's going on. So if there's anything you want to share, Bodo, feel free to put it in this space, because it'd be wonderful to be able to do it. But it's really quite something when you land on something. I understand it why, when you feel like you've got the truth, there's something quite powerful about that, where you feel like you've landed and you've got it. Because now I'm not moving away from it, but I'm kind of going, okay, let me look at another methodology for a bit. And I get a bit wobbled by it because I'm learning something new. And it takes me off my axis in the sense that, but over there, and I was just learning that methodology, I was like, dum.
Yeah.
Now I'm over here learning something new about myself, a bit like wobbly the last couple of days, like, why am I doing that to myself? But it's like, but that's growth. And one moment I could be like this, next moment I'm wobbling myself because I'm addressing a new part of me from a new perspective. And I could have just stayed there. But I'm not someone to stay in one place, in one modality, and become a specialist in something. It's like, right, I need to try the buffet of modalities,
100%.
every little thing, and just know if I like it or not. And in fact, I like them all and I don't like them all at the same time, because, there's a lot of confronting certain things about ourselves. So it's quite interesting to just see that. And I'm sure, why people become specialists in their field, because then nobody can challenge them ultimately. And you can feel quite righteous in that place. And I get why people would go down that route, and it feels safe.
And comfortable and familiar.
And you feel the authority. Yeah. When I was a speaker on stage, I'm there, suddenly I'm the one on stage and everybody else is down there having to listen. There's something about, being a coach and, but I could see that I was becoming somebody that you can become quite a monster. I'm not saying I was becoming a monster, but you can do when you're not got people to check you. You can stay in your ego, because who's to challenge me? I've got people listening to me. Everybody's and I can see how that can happen. Really, what that means. So I think it's about humbling oneself and trying out all these different modalities, because they're new. Yeah. And every master was once a disaster. So just figuring out another aspect of ourselves. And
reminding yourself, like, I know nothing. That doesn't have to mean you literally know nothing. Like, you don't know anything about your field or whatever you want to call it. But I do believe in the I know nothing. At the end of the day, I'm doing what I'm doing. It's resonating with me. It's making changes in me. It's what I feel to do. But, if another modality is doing something for me, great. If I want to, ultimately, my goal is to continue building that inner guidance, so you can take snippets from modalities if you really want to, and put them together and decide how you want to do something. Like, that's really what it's
a collage of modalities.
Yeah. So when someone even says to me, what do you do? There was a time, I was in the corporate industry, the corporate field for a long time. And so I was in a very performance-driven, results-oriented. Every month was broken up, month ends, all this jazz. And, there was a time where it was just, this is what I am. This is my title. This is what I do. And even as I got into, my ultimate, what feels right to me is veering into the, let's call it the holistic world, the healing world, the energy world, whatever you want to call it. my mind was still a bit in that place where it was like, but what do you do? What do you call yourself? What is your name? What are you an expert on? And as more time has gone by, I've realized, I mean, that doesn't even feel right to me. You know, it doesn't feel right to say, this is what this is who I am. You know, it's more of a broader spectrum of, there's many modalities till now, and it will continue happening, that I, associate with. I try them out. I see how they feel, but I trust my own inner guidance so much. I feel like we can be guided in a way. If you are supposed to facilitate something or do something, it will come through you. You know, you don't have to sit down and read 18 encyclopedias and then be like, okay, this is who I am now. It doesn't always have to be like that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, no, that's more of the intellect, the mind, and I think what you're obviously describing is the higher self, the higher self that transcends time and space. It's the creative aspect of ourselves. We're living in our highest values, and here we are, being in the present moment, and this just wonder comes through, and it's very healing. Yeah, it's a loving state.
And trusting that it's a process till now. I mean, I have my wonky moments all the time. I'm in one right now, and it's like you're learning.
Come on, let's hear the wonkiness.
Oh, Lordy. For me, I feel like. So
have a shot matcha.
You're always. I know, I forgot about this. It's kind of like blended grass, but in a good way.
It's quite bitter today, the matcha.
I mean, again, for me, I wouldn't know any better. Is it like wheatgrass, kind of?
No, but it is quite bitter today.
Well, I feel like it's doing something for my cells, so.
Let's get 2 wellness shots. Yeah, let's get wash. Okay. Anyway,
I feel like I'm going to leave here jacked with.
Come on, let's go! New Earth Cafe! Yep.
So obviously everyone has different, what's their major thing that's going to give them a kick in the ass. And, for me, it's always been kind of purpose-driven, a little bit like I am my own worst enemy. I am my own, you're not doing enough, you need to be doing enough. Why aren't you doing enough? You're too late. It's not going to work for you, it's going to work for other people. And that's kind of always been my thing. So, the difference now versus before is I have the awareness, like we talked about, the protector and the villain and all this jazz, your shadow. Okay, I'm able to recognize it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't knock me out sometimes. It's just I've learned, to the best of my ability to be like, okay, if you're going to try and knock me out right now, then knock me out. Let's be knocked out together. Let's just be knocked out. And let's just accept what's happening, and let's get to the learning. And this is something that I learned in theta healing, really getting to the positive learning of whatever's happening. And so I don't get to that right away sometimes. Sometimes I just need to function like I am right now, and I need to understand I'm going through something right now. I'm working through it. I don't need to intellectualize it. I don't need to sit in a corner and meditate for 12 hours. I need to live. I need to travel through it. I need to get up. I need to sit at this table. I need to function in the world and understand it's something that's happening and know that I'm going to get to the lesson, and it's going to come maybe out of nowhere, maybe in an ice bath, maybe from this matcha. It's going to come, but there's no forcing, so I think it's tricky. Like I said, I was in a corporate field for a long time. So my patterns of, why are you doing what you're doing, but from the intellectual place? Where is this leading? Where do you want this to lead? Shouldn't this be leading here? But hang on a second. Where is this going to bring you? What about abundance, money? Like all these things kind of come into play. And this was a big player in what I was used to for so long, because it was all about, hitting your target, month ends, how much money's coming in, what's going on here, but what was the purpose of this? And in some of the modalities I've gone into, plant medicine, for example, that was also one of the loops I got into. But what's the reason? What's the purpose? Why did we come here then? What was the reason? Like my mind just kept doing this. So that's kind of what I'm in right now. And I know that, I know enough now to just not try and shut it down. Even though sometimes it can feel terrifying. It can feel very isolating and very much like you're just on your own. And this is something I say in ice baths and other things too. Your mind will isolate you. It will make you feel like you're completely on your own, and then you have no choice but to listen to it,
What's an aspect of yourself right now that you would love to work through? Thank you.
Thank you. I think right now what I feel like I am, in fact, working through is
Thanks, dude.
my creation. Like building that trust part of me, the one that trusts myself, the one that really trusts that inner Gurmeet, not just like the outside, just that really inner deep excavating inside, that trust of being in like creation mode and understanding that it's possible and that I can do it.
What's possible? What are you looking to create? Talking about creations, wellness.
Is this going to be matcha number 2?
Let's find out.
Who would have known? That was delicious, by the way. That was really good. What was that?
Followed by a chaser. It's a bit of,
This is what we're doing now.
a bit of everything.
Chasing a wellness shot with some water and a matcha.
This is how we rock and
times
roll
have
now.
changed.
I know. It really has.
Creation in the sense of, like, I feel like I'm in this mode where it's like a flower. And I'm visualizing it blooming. And some of my own patterns are like blocking the bloom. And then the bloom goes like this, and then it goes like this, and then it's like, wait a second, maybe I shouldn't bloom. It's kind of like that. And I'm really like getting into that place of like, okay, strengthening your own inner guidance with patience. You're trusting God, you're trusting the Creator, whatever you want to call it, with patience. You are where you are. That doesn't mean you sit and you stare at the wall, but you are where you are. That bit of you that's trying to, run you over here and run you over there, that's not you. That's that other bit that's trying to turn things around and make it more, results oriented, and that doesn't jive with you anymore.
What does that look like, though? Because I, relate to that. We all, feel like we're blooming to be our best part. But what does it look like to you to bloom? What would your life look like?
I mean, for me, there's a sense of freedom in just doing what you're doing without connecting it to anything.
Like a result.
A result, whether it's a tangible result like actual dollars, whether it's, a feeling result, just doing what you're doing because you're being led to do it. And inadvertently, you're feeling what you're feeling. You know what I mean? It's just that simple. And so for me, it's when I think about, okay, it's funny, like I'm not someone who makes New Year's resolutions, or I just don't. But this year I was like, I know this year is about creation. Like this year is very much about what is the next step of creation. And so we're in the end of February now. And it's funny because now I feel like these past few weeks I've been in this mode of that wall where it's like, even reaching creation, you have to get through some of these blocks that are like, in order for you to really bloom and get into creation and drop those bits of you that are like, okay, but this has to lead me here. Otherwise, I wouldn't do that, right? Now you're shutting down that creative part of you because you're linking it to something. So now I feel like that's the wall that I'm kind of like, back in the day, I would have been butting my head against it and then talking smack to myself about myself. Now I'm kind of just like, what is it? Was it Shawshank Redemption when he was digging with the spoon?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm doing now. Like, I'm just like, okay, cool, you're here. We're going to create. This is the year of creation, but let's just use the spoon. You don't have to go crazy.
Use a bigger spoon.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, interesting because it sounds like, you're looking to blossom.
Yeah.
And then your patterns stop you from blossoming.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you're not tying it to a result. So there's a kind of, a contradiction in the sense that the result is to blossom.
Yeah.
Yet the pattern is, well, there is no thing to link to result. So then you can see how then you're going to be forever in this place of not blooming because you're not looking to result to bloom. So what does it look like where you feel you've got there, that you've bloomed without blooming? That you feel fulfilled, complete, that you just reached your place. What is stopping you from getting there?
I think because I have had moments where I have felt this, especially when I got into this work. It's like a moment of just content. I remember one time I was just sitting in my car and I was just content. And I was like, I would say it lasted about 5 seconds, because then I was like, wait, what are you content about? Hang on a second. What's going on? What's happening? And then I got like a little bit jostled about and kind of panicked. And then this all happened in like 20 seconds. But I just felt neutral, content. I wasn't super happy and I wasn't down. I was just like, oh, this is great. That was it.
You were neutralized.
Yeah, it was that
In
neutral
equilibrium.
place. Yeah, it was just that neutral place of, this is where I am at this very moment. Whatever time it was at this second, this is where I am. This is what I feel. That's it.
So what's keeping you from there now?
Well, like now, this wonky moment that
Yeah.
I'm having, I feel like it's linked. It's kind of like, I wouldn't say it's keeping me from it. I definitely feel like it's my next step to work through. That's why I'm facing it right now. And I haven't quite gotten to what the learning is from this specific moment, but this wonky moment, but I just feel like it's a strong belief system that I need to work through. And it's linked a bit to really like deep-seated trust within myself and deep-seated capability and worthiness. Like it's so deep. It goes beyond what anybody can see. It goes beyond even what I can, see, even with the tools that I know. It's something that I feel I need to sit with and really get to that crux, like you talked about, the protector of the inner child. It's that deep-seated belief that was created.
What's that belief you've created?
But that's what I would need to determine. So this is something through theta healing where it's like you get to that root. You
Yeah.
find that moment where you created that belief that literally runs like 1,000% of your life, depending on whatever you're working through. And right now I feel like it's capability, worthiness, can you just be free? Do you know how to just be free? Do you know how to operate in even the setting that you're in now and just be free?
If I say something to you and the first thing that comes to your mind, just say it, right? The world is,
That's funny, hard,
and I am,
strong.
okay. So the world is hard,
Yeah.
but you're strong. Interesting, because you would need to be strong if the world was hard. And if you're a flower looking to bloom, it's very difficult in a world that's hard and you're being strong, right? It seems like then your childhood was hard.
Very much, yeah.
What made it so hard?
I think there was a huge lack of emotion in our family. There wasn't an emotional, like a deep emotional connection. We were close in proximity,
With who?
I think throughout our entire family, to be
With
honest.
your mum and dad?
Mom, dad, even my siblings, like we didn't grow up with an emotional closeness. We were family because you're family. We were close because we were physically close. This is what you do, you're family. But there was no emotional. It's funny, I was just talking to my sister about this too. There wasn't an inner closeness. We grew up very separate, and yet we were physically close. And so we grew up very much with the thinking. So I'm not surprised I even said those first words, that life is hard, but you got to do what you got to do. You got to hustle, but life's always going to be hard.
So how did you pick that belief up?
I would say through our upbringing. I mean, I saw my parents hustling. My parents were immigrants. They immigrated to Canada, and that was a huge success for them coming from India, because everybody wanted to immigrate to Canada, and they made it, and that was great. But that was, sometimes I feel like, to some degree, that was their thing. And after that, it was just, no, we made it. So yeah, we work hard, we do what we have to do, but there wasn't that next step sort of deal.
They sort of stopped growing because they felt like, oh, we got it here, that's
Yeah,
it.
to some degree, yeah. Then it was just about money and this, like those sort of
Then
things.
they got
right?
caught up in the sort of Western thinking of
Exactly.
life there.
Yeah.
So when they got to Canada, and were you born in Canada?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then they grew up. What was consensus within the house? How did they instill that the world was hard with you?
I mean, from young, it was just, you need to work. It doesn't matter if you like it. It doesn't matter if you don't like it. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You need to make money. You need to find
Why?
a way to make money, because this is what they did. So, my parents had factory jobs. My parents weren't educated. They did still very well for themselves for people who had, very little education and had come from India. But, for them, it was just, again, the hustle. You got to do what you got to do, and you got to, make money. And so on one hand, they instilled this crazy work ethic in us. But it inadvertently created this other bit that wasn't about connecting to yourself. It was about, I'll do what I need to do. I don't care how much discomfort I need to go through, because that doesn't matter, because I'm doing what I need to do. So there was a huge disconnect there.
So for their mentality, when they got to Canada, it was a matter of working to stay there.
Yeah.
Because if they didn't, they would be...
Well, they wanted to. They came there. They got married and they came to Canada immediately. They were both in their early 20s. Canada was a different time in the 70s than it is now. I think rent was $1 or something like that. Things were very different. But it wasn't about, we're here, let's try. It was, no, this is it. We don't have any other choice. So we're having our kids. We're doing our thing. Figure out your shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for they made the decision that they're definitely going to stay. But if they didn't work hard, what was the consequence that they teach you if you didn't work hard?
Oh, failure, disappointment. You're ostracized by society, your peers. I don't even think they knew, because I just think that that's what they felt. Like they had made it here. They couldn't come there and fail. So it was like, no, you need to do what you have to do to show a certain face, to show that you're successful, to show that you mean something, that you have worth, you have some level of value. I mean, that's why even, I'm sure not just the Indian community, but let's just say the Indian community, for example, you'll see a lot of, people being like, oh, my son's a doctor, and oh, my, this is this. And my parents weren't so much like that, but they had their bits too, because when I veered off into rebellion, it was like they didn't even know what to do. Like, what were they going to say I was when I was off, doing my thing? But it is very much about that level of status. Like, what are you doing? How much money are you making? And how successful are you? It's just that. It's not any interconnection or anything like that. It was just very much that.
Because it's status and more caring about what other people think.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? So do you feel like that their idea of, what they needed to look like got in the way of connecting and understanding who you were?
Yeah.
And because of that, and that was more important, I'm understanding what it was. What about that made it hard for you?
I didn't learn, and I say this all just to preface, without any blame, because we all do the best we can. Like our parents did the best they could. It is what it is, right?
But it's your inner child, isn't it, that may be holding on to something,
right,
rather than the mature adult who's like,
100%.
I blame.
Yeah, 100%.
So I get it.
I don't think I didn't learn how to trust myself. I didn't learn how to build that strength within myself. I was extremely insecure. I was no matter how I came across, even later on into my adult years, like I didn't have any trust for me, my capability, my worthiness. And that's why I say it's a little bit of, that's my major program. And even though I have healed some of it, or however you want to word it, it goes so deep that there's always going to be bits that come up that I need to visit in another way. But it totally shut me down to me. Anything I was feeling, anything I was guided to do, guided to say, I didn't even pay it any mind. I just put it to the side.
How does it serve you?
I mean, from a positive fashion, I would say it instilled a crazy work ethic inside of me. It instilled, you don't give up. You do what you need to do, when I say anything is possible, I don't necessarily mean in the broader spectrum, but I mean you'll make it through. You can make it through. If it means you're going to a shitty job every day and you're miserable, you'll make it through. If it means you're in, that sounds more of a negative, but the positive is whatever you're in, you'll make it through. Like it really gave, all of my siblings and I, we have this, very headstrong horse galloping through whatever needs to happen. It instilled a strength in us.
Because when you said, look, there's something that's so deep and it's always there. Because that language, it sounds like, there's it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Because when you declare the always and it's deep down, you're making it ever evasive from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think it serves you by making it unreachable?
Which part unreachable?
That feeling, that deep belief that you have, how does it serve you to make it unreachable?
That belief of just disconnection, you mean?
Well, there's something within you that you said is deep down, it's a belief. That you said it's always going to be there. And you, in the way that you're talking, it's unattainable. Like you can't reach it because the language when we use always and things like this is a generalization. It's not the truth, but you're convincing yourself that it is the truth, that it is unreachable. So I just wanted to know, how does it serve you to be unreachable?
See, I think what I mean when I say it's always been there is, and I only say it now because of a lot of the stuff that I've done, because there was a time where I would have 100% been like, no, it'll always be there. It is with me forever, be all end all. Now when I say it's always been there, I mean, it goes so deep that it's not going to be there's bits of it that I've chipped away and I have this, revelation and I feel it inside and there's transformation, but I know there's more.
Well, look, there's a splinter, right? Deep within. Let's call it a splinter.
Yeah.
And you're using the terminology going, I know it's deep in there. I've chipped away at it. It's always been there. So how does it serve you with that terminology to make it really difficult to reach? And I'm asking because it may be something that you have not thought about in that capacity before. I don't even know if that's the right word to use, but how does it serve you? I'm intrigued to know, and I'm sure you'll be intrigued to know what comes out.
I think there's a huge level of familiarity and comfort. There's always been a bit of me that's kind of, shied back a bit. There's always been a bit of me that has been like, all right, you go on because I see your capability, but mine, I don't know, so much. And there's a comfort of kind of being a little bit in the shadows. And it doesn't fit me anymore, and I know that. And I know that it's not meant to be in this next chapter of my life. I'm just not bulldozing the way I used to. I'm kind of just working with it and taking my time to navigate it. And when I say taking my time, I don't mean it's going to be the next 20 years.
Well, you just say you're using a spoon in Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
So you
but I will be using that spoon all day and night.
Yeah,
so
but my point is, it's
soon.
like, because you can see, I see patterns, right?
Yeah.
And I see the terminology of the language you're using. And I didn't know where we're going to go, obviously.
Yeah,
but what I'm hearing is Shawshank Redemption, a spoon. We know how long that took.
Yeah.
It's deep down, always, and you're chipping away. So you're making basically the great escape.
Yeah.
And you're trying to make this thing that seems very long and tedious because it's up to you, but you're choosing to make it that way.
Right.
So that's what I would like to know, because it seems like...
I don't want to cut you off, but what just came to me too is because in my whole life, I've always been like, all right, let's do this quickly. On to the next thing. All right, let's fix this. Why isn't this fixed yet? It's always been this mass, frantic, manic moment. I've learned to be like, okay, chill, take a minute. Even if this feels a little uncomfortable, you're going to work through this in a way where you're going to get to the other side. You're not going to numb anything. You're not going to half work through it. You're going to feel what you need to feel throughout the whole process. So if that means it's 6 months, 2 months, a week, it doesn't mean it's going to be, but that bit of my brain that's already decided, no, it's too long.
Well, it seems like you've gone from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
And obviously this is about finding balance. So here's an opportunity now. Obviously we're just talking, and
right, of course.
I've seen that. Like me, I recognize that. That's what I'm saying. Like, bulldozing speed. And now it's like, look, you don't want to rush through it yet. There's a part of you going, there's not enough time. And like you said it before, I'm not enough. And why am I not moving quicker? So you're kind of denying a part of yourself that wants to move fast. And you're saying, no. Let's draw this out agonizingly long. Yeah. And it's sort of like a self-torment, it could be seen. And in a funny way, the ice bath is kind of to freeze it a little bit. We're going to really draw this out, but just to make you, suffer for wanting to rush this through. So And I'm just seeing the polarity of both of them and how we can draw into the, equilibrium and ultimately the place of love by seeing both sides simultaneously. We can then synchronize it and then go, you can see that there was nothing missing from your childhood. So where you saw it was hard, where was it soft?
Nothing, I would say nowhere. But hold on. Dig a little bit more in there. Hold on.
Chip away.
Yeah, hold on. Where was it soft? What's the first thing that comes to me? Where was it soft? Small moments, like it felt soft when I was writing in my journal. It felt like I had until now I do that. I have a bunch of them. It felt like I had a confidant or a companion or something. It felt supported. There's obviously, you're going to have moments with your family. Not everything's bad in any situation. We used to make pizza every Friday. Felt soft, felt nice, Small stuff like that. It felt, there was little like snippets, little glimmers of that,
And I'm sure there's still only snippets of the hard times too.
Yeah, totally.
Because the reason I say this is because you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
You can't have challenge without support. You can't have up without down. You can't have positive without negative, ultimately, what it comes down to. And you can't have challenge without support. But what the mind does, we go back to those moments that were hard and we forget that there was support in that moment.
Right.
Because our brain automatically goes into homeostasis. You'll never find, no matter how devastating whatever it is happens, there's always the other side to counterbalance it, to neutralize it.
Right.
But we hold on to and make up a story that something was hard, and then we just bypass all the soft. Because then we want to tell ourselves a story that it's hard.
Yeah.
And then the reason I can say it's hard, then I get to hide my softness and this persona of being hard and being strong because I feel weak inside. And so your persona is, I have to be hard and have to be strong because I'm actually suppressing the easiness and the weakness of myself. So then you're in disbalance because you're having to then create a persona that ultimately is one side.
Right.
So when you go back to your childhood and you look at those moments and you see the softening, because straight away you went like, you had to smile.
Totally,
you actually were like, oh, actually, because it serves you to see the world as hard. It serves you to then go, well, then I can be strong because then you can be who you've always been. But then if you were to look at your childhood and actually go, actually, it was 50-50. It was soft. So then I don't have to be as strong. I can be ultimately 50 strong and 50 weak. Like I can be balanced. How would that feel then if you looked at your life in that way? Because that is what it's always been. It's just a story we told ourselves.
I mean, now, and this is again why I think I used the spoon thing, that through a lot of these like digging sessions I've done on myself and some of my peers have done on me. So when I delved into theta healing and really started getting to that crux, now I see even more exactly what you're saying, that, it's 50-50. There's hard, soft. You build this belief system that life is hard and you're strong, you can do it, but that's not serving you. That's not how you want to continue this path. So the chipping away bit is about, to get to that real hardcore center, you just need to go through a few layers, right?
Well, here we are now.
Yeah.
Going through a few layers.
Exactly.
What would it take then for you to reach that part of you and go, oh, there it is?
See, I don't feel like it's lost. Not like before. I feel like it's right around the corner, and that's why it feels so much like I need to be going through this right now, because it's like about to burst, or to pop. I think it's really like I need to, and I am, and for however long, I need to face that bit of me that's like, not you. It's not you. It's not going to be you. Not you, not in this lifetime. It's just not you. Go back to that quiet place.
What do you mean by it's not you?
Like that, if you had told me years ago when I was in my corporate field that one day I would be in the holistic field, I would have looked at you like you were insane. If you would have told me I would have lived in another country and I would have left some other situations that I had been, I would have been like, you're batshit crazy and that's never happening and blah, blah, blah. And so there's always been that version of myself. Maybe we all have this that I've seen in my head And it's not a perfect version. It's a free version. It's the version that's doing what she wants to do. And it's not a version that's a billionaire. And it's not a version that's anything. It's just freedom. It's breathing. It's relief.
Freedom from what?
I think freedom from that whole results-oriented, you got to do this is going to lead here, but this is this and all that jazz.
What do you so when you said about the results, what do you feel about that as in, because it seems like you see that as a negative.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
what's
it
the
sounds when I'm saying
because when
it,
you say it,
that.
because there's a part of you that you're trying to, it's like you've learned something from your childhood that you see as results driven, and you're sort of judging that part of yourself because you're in the corporate world. It looks like it drove you towards some pain. So the only way you can heal something like that is actually to see the positives of it as well.
Right.
To bring it into equilibrium. That moment of grace where you say, I've neutralized it because now I've seen the other side of it. What would be the positives of being result driven?
Well, results driven can be amazing. Results driven, you're accomplishing what you need to. You have a goal in mind. You're strategically setting things up to get to that end goal. The emotion that you feel when you get to that end goal. It's amazing. I think when I say results oriented, what I mean, or driven in a negative fashion, I mean you're in a very toxic environment you don't want to be in, and the only thing that matters is the result. It doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter how you speak. It doesn't matter how you're being spoken to. Nothing matters but the result, the end goal. So that's why it came about in a way where it was just negative. It was like, I either was going one direction or I wanted to literally just collapse, like just tune out, zone out. That's the end of that sort of deal. It's not that I don't want to have results now, but it's in a different way. It's like that content in the car way. It's that way of something comes to me through creation or inspiration, not through, okay, who cares how you feel? You got to get this done. So how are you going to get there? Blah, blah, blah. It's like a flow, and I feel it, and I feel it more than I ever have. And so this wall is like this little bit that's like, okay, Gurmeet, here we are. We finally come to this point where you're acknowledging what's up. You're not running from it. You're not whatever. And so the spoon, I wish I had said a shovel or like a forklift or something, but the spoon, the construction equipment that I'm using to get through the wall, that's that bit that's like, here we are. We finally come full circle. And now you're going to get through this bit and understand that it's a bit of you.
I feel like doing like a little exercise first time, really.
Right,
what if you just, for a moment, if you close your eyes.
Okay.
This has come to me right now.
Okay.
And you look at that wall, Shawshank Redemption, and you see that tunnel. And you're holding that spoon, and you can see there's a long way down that tunnel. But suddenly that wall becomes the wall, and you're holding now a paintbrush. That when you paint over that wall, it becomes the hole to the other side. As soon as you start painting that wall, you're about to step through that wall and get to the other side. No more shoveling for months or years on end. When you paint that wall and there's that hole that takes you to the other side, and as you walk through it, where are you now? How do you feel?
So funny. It's funny. I feel like I stepped through and it was like, it's so crazy. I opened my eyes. I was like, where am I?
Yeah, me too for a moment.
I literally was in the wall. It's like I stepped through and I was like, you're missing something. You didn't, okay, how do I word this? It's not that I'm like, you need to go through hard work to get to the other wall. It's not that. It was like, but there's something that I need you to see. And you're not going to see it like this. You're not going to see it by just stepping through. I need you to just go through a few small things. I need you to see them to get to that, like to shift that ancestral deep thing that we came here to shift in this lifetime. There's a few things that you need to see. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Okay, so let's hold on freeze the ancestral, what you need to see.
Yeah.
But when you stepped through that wall, where were you? Or did it not allow you to go through?
It's like I stepped through.
Yeah.
And then I immediately looked back and saw the jail cell. Where was I? The jail. Yeah.
But where did you step into?
Nowhere.
Okay, so you stepped into nowhere.
It's like I stepped into, like, probably what in Shawshank Redemption, I stepped into I was still in the building.
So you stepped, and you were still in the sewage or whatever it was.
Yeah, yeah.
So something stopped you from stepping through. And that was a little voice in his head saying you need to see something in order for you to step through.
In order for this to be complete, there's something that you need to work through.
Okay. What do you think that is?
It's funny because I've been mulling that over, and even my sister said to me, like, just, you need to sit with it, and you really need to just, I keep coming back to, and I don't know it completely yet, and I know I'll know it when I feel it. Like, I know how I am now. I keep coming back to there's this bit that's still like this. It's still small. It's still like leaning back, and that's not us anymore. So in order for you to get to this side, you're going to need to dig through a little bit, like emotionally. Like that bit of you that is comfortable or has familiar to play small, that's not it anymore.
If we took a moment and just eyes closed or eyes open, where is that little thing located?
In my body?
Where in your body?
I always feel like suffocation.
So there's a compression on your chest.
Yeah, it's funny, even when I did my plant medicine ceremony, for a lot of it I was doing this.
So it's your heart chakra. Okay, so what does it look like, this thing? How big is it? How small is it? What shape is it? What color is it?
It's like a golden yellow.
Okay. So there's a golden yellow. Is it small, big?
It's like everywhere.
Okay,
it's like,
so it's large.
Oh, it's just
Okay, so
big
you
rock.
feel like it's a rock. Okay. So go into that rock and just be with it for a moment. And then ask it, what does it need to hear? What do you need to hear in order for it to be released?
It's like support.
Support.
Like there's a lack.
Okay, so you're asking it what. So if I'm asking it, you say, well, what do you need to tell me in order for you to be released? What comes up when you ask that question?
What does it need me to tell it?
And what does it need to tell you? What does it need to tell you in order to be heard before it can move on?
That, like, support that I have to have my own back. So it is me. That's what I feel like. We're not separate. It is me, and I am it. And it's like, we need to, like, understand, like, how strong we really are for us.
Well, there's that thing again. The world is hard, so you need to be strong.
Yeah.
So if you're holding on to something, you're saying, we need to have your back, then what will happen if it knows that you have your back?
Oh, it's such a relief. Like, it's just a warm, it's just like, oh, like, we're okay. We're
and
okay.
What needs to happen for you to feel okay, to know that you have your own back?
I think it's, like, I'm trying not to intellectualize it and kind of just go into my body. It's
the first thing that comes to you.
Yeah, it's just like, we will make it through. Like we are making it through. We are making it through.
Well, we are making it through is like the spoon going through the wall, because you can make it through right now, right? It's a matter of...
But that's what it is. It's like you are making it through. We are making it through. Like, just like you're so scared
Of what?
of failure, of, like just, it's funny because so many times I've been like, okay, I know, like even taking myself, and that's why, these modalities, it's not just about facilitating, it's really doing it on yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in so many sessions, I've gone into myself and just been like, what would be the worst thing about you stepping into that manifestation you see, or your power, or whatever it is,
What needs to happen for you to take that step forward? And it's usually an actionable step in order for you to get that confirmation that you've had your own back, that you've got your own back.
It's like, it's not just one thing. It's like these steps now that I'm taking, this perseverance or whatever you want to call it, because not everything works out exactly the way you want it to. It's steps. I just need to keep going without stopping, stop, because that is not like, it doesn't come across as support. It comes across back into that, okay, wait a second, hold on, like fear. What if I take this step and I go somewhere else? What if I don't go anywhere?
Hold on a second, that camera just made a noise.
It's okay. Is it trying to give me a sign? Are you trying to tell me something?
We're good.
It doesn't feel
Okay.
like there's one solitary thing.
I get it, because, but then if it was, then it'd be too easy for you.
Yeah. That's true too.
Because it sounds like, what is hard, it depends what your definition of hard is. The world is hard. Well, if it's hard, then you make it hard for yourself. And, we could go through certain things, but it's like you want to make it elusive, like you want to make it hard, because I think you grow and learn a lot from it.
Yeah.
But it also keeps you safe.
Right.
Because then if you were then going to step forward and actually go for it, then you're going to have to really confront that aspect of yourself that you've been withholding back from the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can hide behind the illusion, if it's hard and I can be strong, what does that mean? Well, I get my persona. Then the world doesn't see me as I truly am, authentically. So there's that aspect of you that's that golden thing here that, it's about having your back. When you know you've got your back covered and that compression is elevated, what does it look like that when you step forward and go, oh, okay, it's not there anymore. I've transformed it, transcended it. Now I'm able to do X. What does that look like?
It just feels like now I can breathe. Now I can take this step and I can try this and it's cool. It goes this way, it goes that way. We're okay. Now I can try this. It's okay. Now I can read a book. Now I can just exist.
Now you can just be.
I can just be.
Are you there now?
I am much more there now than I've ever been. At this particular moment, I'm like in the middle because like I'm going through that wonky bit. But I'm so much more there than I ever was. But I know there's still that bit of me that, like the content in the car. When I'm there, and all of a sudden it'll be like, what do you think you're doing? Where are you? What's happening?
What do you think is driving you towards? Because I know a lot of people can relate to that. Because nobody's fully content some more than others, of course.
Right.
But what would give you that feeling of contentment more often?
I think for me personally, it's just being able to live in a certain way where I'm, I know I've used the word freedom in this. I know I've relief, breathe, where I'm just, it's not linked to a purpose. It's not linked to anything. It's just like right now I want to sit down at this table. I'm sitting down at this table. Like the level of pressure that I have put on myself and wherever it's come from, who cares? Mm-hmm. The reality is it's just been this pressure. And who knows if it comes from what other lifetimes or ancestral or I don't know what, but it has been immense. And for me to just be content, when I have had those moments where I've just felt that neutral, I've just been okay. I've just been there to be there, wherever I was. It's to alleviate that self-induced, like 99% of the time, pressure. And that pressure, then you can branch it off to whatever you want: abundance, money, relationships, whatever. It's just the pressure to just always be trying to have something lead somewhere. But what if it leads nowhere?
So it's about alleviating the pressure you have on yourself, because that's what it sounds like. There's a pressure on you.
Yeah.
So the pressure comes from your parents because their pressure was about survival. So if you're not in a place, let's say...
But I would go so far to say, like, I've had my own healing sessions, that the pressure goes further than this lifetime. I've literally seen it, faced it, observed it, spoken to it.
You know what? And I get that because, if we look at trauma, it can be passed down from one generation to the next. So not only are we dealing with our own traumas, but we could potentially be dealing with, a generational.
Yeah.
So what we understand is that there's something called perturbation, which is, this is how diamonds are formed because, there's perturbation. The pressure transforms coal into diamonds, right? So without pressure, you're not going to expand, ironically, because this is how you become the best version of yourself under pressure. So when you're trying to relieve pressure, then ultimately what you're doing is going against growth. And you're somebody who wants growth, yet you don't want the pressure. You can't have them without each other. So I think it's more about, why am I going through this? What am I growing towards? And why am I having to go through the pressure? Why go through it? Why jump in an ice bath? It's doing freezing. Why am I doing it? It seems like it's more about having a life of purpose, so you know why you are doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think it sounds like that's what you're searching for, because what's been instilled in you in your childhood was working hard for the sake of earning money to live, to survive, like most people. And status, look, here we are in Dubai. It's the epitome of it.
Yeah.
Half of it is anyway. So it's no surprise, it's most people. This is where I look at the old earth. That's most people, because we're all just working for the sake of survival and comparing ourselves to each other. And, we're just sort of here going, why am I doing all of this? And the realization of that can be quite stressful. It can be actually an existential crisis. Why am I doing this? For the sake of what? I'm realizing that there's a void in me that I can't fill with no matter how much money I have. So that void, I'm putting this book together at the moment, is ultimately your higher self. It's your spirit that's saying the void will never be filled by the materialistic things that are here on earth. No matter what it is you consume, eat, drink, buy, how much sex, it doesn't matter. You'll never consume it. It's limitless. But until you realize that your spirit is here for a purpose for the new earth, you're going to do your very best to distract yourself from ultimately your purpose of why you're here. And that's what it comes down to, is that void. And going, okay, I'm here for a specific reason, like my fingerprint. What is that? What are my highest values? And what is it that I can be a service to the world? And how do I fully embrace that, so I'm no longer holding back and looking to, distract myself or freeze myself or whatever it might be, whatever we're using, as our modality at that time. Because it sounds like you're kind of waiting a little bit, but you're figuring it out. This is when you're in a state of like, my purpose, like, what is it? And it feels like, because you said about the cell, when you're trying to get out of the cell, because there's a part of you kind of keeping yourself in prison until you fully let your spirit in. If you were to completely go into your purpose, no matter, there's no such thing as failure, all of that sort of stuff, what would your purpose look like? Why do you think it is you're here on planet Earth?
I know that my purpose is, this sounds so broad and kind of even cheesy. I'm going to say it and then branch off to it. But I know my purpose is to serve humanity. And so what I mean by that is, my purpose wasn't to work in the collection industry for 15 years. My purpose was actually, or is actually, to go through some of my own pain, heal some of my own, ancestral whatever pain, and then help people get through theirs. When I say that, I feel very free. I feel very content. I feel a very big breath of fresh air. Nothing gold, anything. It's all great.
Yeah.
How that looks in exactly what form and which way, this is where sometimes that pressure will come. But I know, I've never known as clear as I know that this is my purpose. I've never known, like I know it 100%.
So it's the how that puts the pressure on.
The how is this where,
Yes.
you know, and the, well, shouldn't this lead here? And well, let's be real. We're not homeless. We need certain things. We need money. We need this, but what about this? And where is this? And all that noise. So I do agree with you that you need some level of pressure to expand. But I don't even look at it as the word as pressure. It's like a level of discipline. A level of just, okay, if this is what you want to do. You know, my brother is very much like this. He's very creative. He's into all different sort of things. He's an artist. He's a rapper. He's all kinds of things. And, you know, he'll create something and just be very easy. Like, I created this because I wanted to create it. It's just that simple. And it's so funny how you can grow up in the same household and you can, like, leave with such very different belief systems and stuff like that. But my point is to say that same pressure that I'm talking about, the how is this going to happen? Where is this going to lead? What about this? What about that? It's like, it doesn't exist for him. He's just very much like, you know, I created a coffee table book. I wanted to create it. I feel really nice. I created it, on to the next thing. It's this flow. You know what I mean? That's that bit where when I think of my purpose, this is it. How it's going to look, where it's going to transform, where it's going to go, I would like to be able to breathe through that and not have that golden rock jump on and the spoon and everything happening. That's that bit.
You know what can help and assist you on that? It's surrendering to your higher self, that burden, and get rid of the how and just go, you know what? I understand my why and I understand my purpose. I now surrender the rest to my higher self within and I set myself free. And then that you'll find that loosening.
Yeah.
That pressure of how, because the how will always take care of itself.
Right.
When you fully let your higher self take over, what do you think it would do first?
It just wants to be. It just wants to live. Like, we came here to experience life in this 3-dimensional world. We came here to experience matcha. We came here to experience these things. It just wants to be. You know, it just says to me, keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. There's no end goal. There's no, you know, end result. Just keep doing what you're doing and enjoy and have fun and breathe. The only thing that gets in the way of that is the little bit of limiting beliefs. You know, we all have them, and it's really up to you how much you're going to, you know, let them come in your way. So, you know, that's why what I was saying with ice baths, for example, like, you're only going to, the protective mechanism that we have to process, you know, shock or whatever it is, trauma, discomfort, and it limits how much we can process at a time. We want that. That's an amazing thing. So that bit of me that I feel like is like, okay, I'm going to navigate this a little bit slower than I normally navigate it. That bit, it's a new learning for me. It's something that I'm actually quite comfortable with now, because before I would have been like guns a-blazing, and it would be too much for my system, and I wouldn't get through everything I needed to get through, and it would have been like, what's the point, right? So it's like my higher self is almost just like, just chill, girl, just breathe.
With your spoon.
With my spoon. Just chill out. You know, for Christ's sake, take something smaller if you want. Just relax, because you're still living throughout that whole process. You're not literally sitting there digging on your own. Like, you're living, you're breathing, you're existing, you're having relationships, you're enjoying your life. And
I guess it's pre-framing it and not saying that you're, you know, looking to escape from something with a spoon, but you're actually living your life. And the illusion is that you think you are escaping from something. That you can actually embrace life and not feel that way. Once you do that, then you're free.
Yeah, and just navigate through whatever it is, you know. And even in having a conversation like this, like, even in 2 minutes, I feel a little bit freer.
Yeah.
To be like, And I know I experienced this, and then it's easy to go back to a little place. So it's finding that middle ground to be like, and this is what I said in the beginning. All right, cool. If that's where you are, if you're hitting a little bit of a wall, or you feel like you're in a little bit of a wonky moment, it is what it is. It's okay. You know, yeah, you definitely have to say to yourself, okay, I'm not going to be here forever. And that can seem like such a small thing. And I'm sure there's other people out there too, but for me, that wasn't a small thing. For me, being in that space was so much more normal, common, comfortable, that even for me to realize how much, is that a person or a thing? Should I turn around and look, or is it going to be
kids.
weird? Oh, the children. Oh.
Yeah,
Lovely children.
I know. Aren't they just a joy?
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, it's just that bit that is like, just breathe. Just relax, breathe, do your thing, navigate. You go through a hard time. You go through it's not a hard time. Do they know what they're doing?
Yeah, I think they do. All right, so final question. If your life was a movie, what would it be?
My life was a movie. Like what genre?
Whatever you feel you want to describe it as.
My life would be like this amazing, like, drama, but then it would be a comedy, because some of the things that happened to me, like I wish a camera could follow me. They're genuinely, like, you would be laughing. But no, my life would be, because when I compare where I am now to where I was, even I don't recognize it. Like, my life would be the story of just where you can be, like, huge transformation. It would just be huge transformation, and living like a real life.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never going to be the type of woman I'm going to go meditate for 20 years. I don't want that. I want to live. I want to go out. I love to dance. I want to enjoy. I'm not going to be the sort of person that speaks in a certain way that's very much, no, I'm a fiery person. I have pizzazz.
It's like a salsa meet Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, yeah.
The cha-cha-cha.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for jumping
You're so welcome.
on.
This was nice.
Yeah, it's nice to have a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, the universe sends in different energies in. I'm wondering what that was symbolizing. Kids, especially like kind of English kids, it reminds me back in school. Like, what were they symbolizing in that moment? Doing the funny faces. I think because...
You think they were telling us not to take things too seriously?
Exactly, because this is my most serious kind of podcast I've been on, because I'm like in this place of, and they came along to lighten it up. You see how
I was hitting
always...
the wall going, okay, Gurmeet, figure everything out by 6 p.m. today.
Exactly. And, they were showcasing to us that, okay, there's our serious side, and they needed to come in to balance us out.
Yeah.
Over the other side of silliness.
Yeah.
You see how
they just did their thing, and now they've moved on in life.
Exactly. So the universe sends people in. It's not just a random coincidence. Everything's energy, and it's counterbalancing. So I think it's worth exploring the idea that, there's the hard and there's the strong. To look back at where it was easy and why you need to be hard, because if you're being strong, then you're suppressing weakness, right? Yeah. So it's embracing where it's okay to be weak. And what is it? Why did we condemn being weak? What does that even mean?
It doesn't exist, but a lot of us, that's what we know.
Yeah.
This is weak, that is weak, this is what you need.
This is where your insecurities maybe come from. There's certain things that you've felt insecure as were your weakness, so you felt like you had to be strong to compensate for it. And, maybe you feel like, basically going back to that time where you felt you were weak is loving that part of yourself. So
trusting that part.
Yeah, trusting that part of yourself. And it was all needed. Nothing was not meant to be.
Right.
And when you understand that, you see the universal laws in play, like we just witnessed there, and you clocked it as well. We were very serious because we were very somber on this one. That actually everything is in balance to lead us into equilibrium, to lead us into love. It's just a matter of becoming aware of that.
Yeah.
Then we can take the pressure off ourselves.
Yeah.
Because this is one of the more serious podcasts today.
Right.
Anyway, we could get back into it again. So lovely. Yeah. Thank you so much.
So nice. Honestly, I really enjoyed having this conversation.
Wonderful.
Like, it's nice.
You feel lighter for it?
I feel lighter for it. I just feel like I was having a chat with a friend. It's nice to just have a normal back and forth and not come all ready to, like just
nightly news.
It's just, it's nice to just free flow.
Well, that's the whole point of it. We're in a cafe. We're having a chat. Things happen. To take away the persona and be as authentic as we possibly can be.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about.
And the bad. That's what I like, the freedom of. Just whatever, the good and the bad, like, it alleviates pressure to just be like, and not in a million years would I ever have said before that I was going through a wonky moment. Because that part of my mind would have been like,
weakness.
perfection.
That's the weakness. That is the weak part of yourself. That's being vulnerable.
Why would you want to show anybody that? You need to navigate that on your own.
But
and
that's
now
your true strength. Your weakness is actually your strength.
Right.
And I think if you look at that and you embrace that, you'll start to see that shift that you've been actually suppressing.
Yeah.
Is the weakness that you condemned as weakness is your vulnerability.
Yeah.
Once you embrace that, I know it will come off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when you said it, you're actually going, hey, I'm not being inauthentic now.
Yeah,
I'm actually embracing it.
Is, yeah.
I'm being wonky. Because I gave you I was saying about my wonkiness, and I think it led the path for you to go, well, it's okay to be a bit wonky then.
And this is the having your back part too, to be like, yeah, this is what I feel. And so in this case, I'm going to say it and we're good. There's nothing else. It's just that simple. It's not like, oh man, you're dumb. Why do you feel that way? You shouldn't feel that way. That looks stupid. That looks weak. It's none of that. It's just...
But once you say the weak part out loud, it doesn't become weak anymore because you just confronted it and it's now out of you. The illusion is that you thought it was weak and wonky, and people actually relate to that. They go, oh, you're human.
Yeah.
You're not pretending that you got everything together.
This is the bit too, even in this line of work. You know, I have many friends, close friends, like we're all kind of in this line of work, and I'm sure you can attest to this too. You're still a human being. You're still navigating your own stuff. You're not just sitting there spewing a bunch of, do this, jump in an ice bath, or breathe 9 times over here, or do this. Be a human being, because we're all going through it. And it's just, how do you go through it? You know?
And how do we end this podcast?
I know.
We're not, I mean,
now the matcha's
goodbyes
like,
are so, let's go. You've had a sip. That's about it. Now you have the chance to drink it all.
Yeah.
So,
Thank
it's been
so
awesome.
much.
And look, of course, if you know anybody else you feel like would have a great experience on this, who feels like, I could chip away at them, let me know, all right?
Yeah. No, I really appreciate it. Thank you. This is great.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Lovely.
Appreciate it. Thanks for
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. Much love.
you.
We vibe when you subscribe.